for you, you can go outside of Etsy. But I would say use that time to just pour instead of like feeling like you have to list or you have to do like your designs, you have to do your SEO because I know that can get repetitive. Use that extra time to go and research because if you want to make a ton of money on Etsy, you have to give people what they're looking for. And the way that you get better at doing that is by researching what those people are looking for.
Hey there, and welcome back to the Built Online podcast, where we talk about all things online business, from e-commerce to digital marketing to building your dream life and your dream business. I'm your host, Cody McGuffie, and if you've been with us for a while, you might remember us as the Etsy Seller Podcast. Well, we're expanding our horizons and transitioning from just talking about Etsy businesses to covering all types of online businesses, because we believe the opportunity is so massive that we should be covering so many unique businesses online. And at EverBee, we believe that everyone deserves the opportunity to pursue their passions, live life on their own terms. And we believe in making e-commerce accessible to everyone in the world, no matter where they are, and be using it to make a positive impact in our families and in our communities. We believe that anyone who truly commits to something, truly pursues it with undeniable force of will, that they will succeed. Let's jump into today's show. Briggette, what's going on?
Not much, just here. Happy to be back. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for that. Thank you for coming back. Very excited to have this conversation again. And nice to see you again.
Yeah, me too. I'm excited to be back and, share some, more tips or extra tips with people that are listening.
Totally. And if you guys haven't watched the first episode that we had with Briggette, she came on, I think it was in May of 2024, and actually have the episode here. The title of the episode is called From Healthcare to E-commerce, a Nurse's Guide to $300,000 in Sales. So you can kind of get Bridget's entire backstory that we covered there. We're not going to talk about all that stuff today, but it is there. It's super valuable. So definitely go check that out. Briggette, let's do a life update. How are you?
Yeah.
Maybe quick summary of who you are
Okay.
here.
Okay. So kind of quickly. So I'm like a nurse by trade. I still keep my license. I've been a nurse for like 10 years, but then stumble on like a print on demand when I was doing like research for a digital store. I had like a printable shop, and then I saw print on demand kind of like videos about it. And at first I thought it was like, I was kind of skeptical. Like I was like, how are you going to make money doing this? And you never touch the items, but fell into rabbit holes. Next, I opened an Etsy shop. I shut down the other shop, the printable shop. And then I just kind of started going with it and started learning, started figuring out, failing, tried so many things. And, here we are. I mean, of course, it was rough at the beginning and, but I learned a lot and here we are now. So that's a quick little story.
Beautiful. And it's probably too modest and too fast to really get in there, but I want to mention a couple things very important.
Yeah.
Last time we talked, I think you approached 9,000 sales on Etsy in a very short period of time. If I recall, was it less than 2 years? Wasn't it?
Yeah, it was about 2 years. Yeah.
And now I checked, you're approaching 14,000, actually 13.9 and some change.
Yeah.
So almost 14,000 sales on Etsy. And again, we just talked like this year. It was 6 months ago, I believe.
Right. Yeah.
You're crushing.
Thank you. Just, trying.
Can we talk revenue a little bit just to give everybody a kind of a
Yeah.
glimpse with print on demand? How are you doing this year?
So like you're talking about from like the last time
No,
to
just
now?
let's talk all of it maybe.
Oh yeah. So all of it now is like I think it's like 450. Yeah.
450,000.
Yes.
And this is how many years?
uh it's about to be like 3 years. I mean, serious like 2 years, but since I opened the Etsy shop, I say 3 years. Yeah.
450,000. I'll just recap that. 450,000 in less than 3 years in revenue. All print on demand. And
Yes.
damn, that's special. The reason why I want to like kind of spend some time on that is because it's hard enough to get one sale and to create your first $1,000 on Etsy or really any platform,
Right.
let alone, do it 14,000 times and generate over $450,000 in revenue. By the way, we can talk profit too, but this is very impressive. And it takes a special type of person to be able to accomplish this, I believe. And I think that you'd agree with this. And I think that our goal here is to
Hmm.
share what type of aspects and what type of mindset that person has to have in order
Right.
to achieve stuff like this.
Hmm.
What do you think? Sound good?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think like that's the number one thing. And it's also part of the reason why I wanted to get on YouTube, of course, like to show you like the amazing numbers that we can all make and like the niches you can get into and the designs and all of that. But it's also like the thing that is not so attainable. And of course, like when I do videos like that, nobody wants to watch them because everybody just wants to say, well, show me how to do it. But the thing is, like, if you are not coming in with like your realistic expectations, you're not able to focus. You don't have like a persistency. You're not consistent. Like, you're just not going to like make it. I mean, it doesn't matter. And I say this a lot in my videos. Like, it doesn't matter how much I showed you, like, you know, how to design, how to research, what mockups do well, like SEO, like how many times I'll tell you this? Like, yes, great, you'll learn this skill, but you're still not going to be successful if you don't even believe that it's possible. And I know that sounds so cliche, and people sometimes don't like when you say that, but I'm telling you, people that have found success in this industry or anything that they do in life is because they first believed that it was possible. They believe that they could do it. And of course, you match that with the skill that you need to accomplish whatever it is that you're trying to do, you are going to be successful. It's not a matter of like if you're going to, it's a matter of like when. Yeah.
I, I love that. And I'm just before we go deeper on that, because that's going to be really
Hmm.
exciting there, and I know we'll get lost in that thing. But everyone needs to talk about mindset with this.
Yeah.
But I'm actually was looking at your stats too while you were talking
Hmm.
about this, and which I love numbers as we all know. And this last
Yeah.
the last 30 days, you've done well over 23,000 in revenue, and then
Yes.
this year has been a
Hmm.
crushing year already. It's not even Q. I think it's just about to be Q4,
Right.
or it is Q4 today.
Right.
Over 100 and 170 grand
Uh-huh.
in revenue this year.
Hmm.
And
I know.
last year, your Q4 was huge, right?
Hmm. Yeah. I made six figures the October, November, December. Yeah.
You're gonna have
Uh-huh.
to finish up with us an amazing 2020,
I know.
2024,
I
huh?
know. I know. I'm kind of excited.
I'm sure. Well, congratulations. I just want to tell you that.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Let's keep talking about mindset. I
Yeah.
completely agree with everything you said as far as people lack the belief that it's possible. That's what
Yeah.
you're saying. And
Hmm.
my question for you is when you started this, let's call it
Hmm.
3 years ago, did you fully believe it was possible, or where were your beliefs at?
I think I've always had this mindset of like whatever I'm going to do, I'm going to go all in, I'm going to go hard, and I'm going to make it happen. And it doesn't matter how long it takes me, it's going to happen. So I think part of it is like, I know not a lot of people come with that mindset of like, so you almost have to like become that person. I
Mhm.
honestly feel like in order to find success, like you can't just keep doing the same things that you were doing before. You have to create new habits. You have to create a new identity. So you have to almost like trick your brain because your brain is meant to protect you and keep you nice and safe, doesn't want you to come out of your comfort zone. But if you have been having this thing in your brain telling you that you're supposed to do something different, that you wanted to quit your 9 to 5 or whatever is it, you kind of have to like almost like trick that and keep like telling yourself like even though like maybe I might have some doubts or I don't think it might happen, like you keep acting, you keep moving forward, you keep taking those baby steps every single day even though you're afraid, because I mean all of us here, like, we're afraid. I mean, I was afraid, but I did it anyways. And that's kind of also my message for my kids, like, yes, you might be afraid, yes, you might not know what's going to happen, but you do it anyways. Because my biggest thing and the thing that I want to tell people is like, what is going to be the worst thing that happens that you're going to look 3, 4, 5 years from now and then you're going to regret that you didn't take that chance? And the thing is, like, you only get one life. You don't get to redo this. This is not a rehearsal. We live in the life that we have right now, and I don't want to look back and say, man, I wish I would have given Print on Demand everything that I could. I wish I would have went all in. I wish I would have actually focused. I wish I would have done this. So that's kind of my biggest thing. And I think that's a big motivator for me. It's like regret. I don't want to live my life with regrets because we only get one life.
Do you think that you've always had that? is this something that your parents instilled into you, or you saw your grandparents have this mentality, or where did this? Do you feel like it come from, or did you have to create this yourself?
Right. I think part of it, my mom, she's always been that person that growing up, she was always like, if there's something you want to do, you go get it and you do it and you put your blinders on and you do it anyway. So that was part of it too. And then I think another part, which I'm gonna get a little personal, is like after I had my firstborn, I had postpartum depression and it was really bad. And I just didn't know, you know what I mean, what was going to happen. And I think after going through that experience of like, being everything being so dark, and you come out and you start seeing life differently, like you start living differently. And I don't know, whoever like people are going through, but sometimes when you're going through something that's like traumatic, it makes you start seeing life differently. So for me, after that, I started seeing like, you know what? There's only one life. I only get to do this one time. And whatever it is that I'm wanting to do, I'm going to make it happen. So sometimes maybe whatever it is that you're going through, use that as like a motivation to help you, grow and learn and come out on the other side.
I appreciate you sharing that. I do
Yeah.
appreciate it, especially as a mom, right? You are, and
Hmm.
a lot of people listening to this are mothers, maybe new mothers, maybe
Yeah.
their kids are older. I told
Hmm.
you earlier before that we started recording that I'm expecting my third, right? So my wife will have.
Yay.
Thank you for that. And I think it's very relatable, and I think it's
Hmm.
special that you're willing to share that because there's a lot of moms that are full time moms
Hmm. Hmm.
or just moms in general, but they also
Right.
have this dream of like doing
Hmm.
something more, or maybe
Right.
this sort of like life freedom that they can maybe have a little more optionality to
Mhm.
spend more time with that child that's going to be becoming older and more demanding.
Mhm.
And so, and they're struggling with their mindset is the
Yeah.
truth. That's what you're saying is how long do you think it took you to kind of
Mhm.
come out of that darkness and kind of become the person you
Oof.
are today?
I mean, I had it. I mean, I was in complete denial because I'm a nurse. So I was like, well, I know. So I was in total denial. But I think what I've learned from that whole situation was just that it kind of woke me up about life and realizing that like we only here for like, a certain amount of time, like
Mhm.
we're on borrowed time. So, and now that I have my son, it kind of made me see life differently. Like, I'm like, what do I want to live? Like, what kind of legacy do I want to, like, live him with? Like, what do I want to teach him about life? And it was more about like, you know what? Yes, it's going to be hard because trust me, hard. Life is hard. Things are going to be difficult. It's going to be challenging. But if there's something in you like that is telling you that you're meant for more, that you're supposed to do more, that you're wanting to do whatever it is, whether it's print on demand or whatever it is, like go and follow that. I mean, you don't have to like do like huge steps and feel like you have to conquer the world all in one
Mhm.
day, but you just take baby steps every single day. And it's kind of like you just chip like at it every single day, and you'll be surprised where you'll be, in like a couple months or even like a year.
Completely agree. I completely
Yeah.
agree with that. Like having this definite aim in life is
Hmm.
is so important for our happiness, our fulfillment,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
obviously financially it works out really well too eventually. But
Right.
I agree, like people get lost in this, including myself. We get lost in this
Hmm.
big picture thing of like this
Hmm.
is what I want to achieve one day. And of
Right.
course it's gonna look so hard because it is. But if
Hmm.
you I have this mindset that I have in my head is I usually share is think big but start small.
Right.
So you could think so big, if I wanna build this huge
Hmm.
company, or maybe I wanna, like, build this,
Right.
this huge building. Well, guess what? You have to
Right.
lay the foundation
Hmm.
first,
Hmm.
and you have
Hmm.
to do step by
Yep.
step and start chipping away, like your words. Completely agree with that.
Hmm. Yeah, for sure. Every single day. You just keep going. But it's also one of those things too that you are going to be shipping away. And if you're saying you're going to do something, there's also this whole like commitment, and there's also this whole thing of you have to develop discipline. Because I know sometimes life gets hard. Like, trust me, I'm a mom, I'm a wife, like, I also homeschool my kids. So, like, my time is limited. But if you're saying you're going to be doing something, then you also need to be doing it. Like, for
Mm,
example, with Etsy, if you're saying you're going to be researching or you're going to be listening, then you also need to commit to that because things are also not just going to happen. So, and I'm not saying that like you have to like burn out and if you're exhausted, not, like that's not what I'm saying, but like you still have to put in that work. Like you have to become that person that shows up and do things, even sometimes when you don't feel like it, because people that are successful, this is what they do. And this is why sometimes like I listen to like Alex Hermosi. I don't know if you're familiar with
Sure.
it, but he says like sometimes it's like the people that like make it are not necessarily the smartest people, it's the people that are willing to outwork you. So it's like if you are committed and you're willing to put in the work, there's so much more that you can accomplish by just showing up and doing it than just saying, well, I want to do it, but you don't never do anything about it. So you still have to show up and do the work. And with Etsy, like you have to put like kind of like do the reps like you do at the gym. Like you show up and you do it and you do it and you do it and you do it. And that's how you get better.
So I completely agree. Like have this like long time horizon.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Mm-hmm.
obviously you have to just show up because like at the end of the day, you're not going to want to go to the gym every single day. Like I don't care
Right.
who you are. Like, you're always going to
Right.
have a day of I want to slip back into my comfort zone, or I
Yep.
don't always want to make my kids breakfast for God's sakes.
Right.
But guess what? I do it anyway, and that's what I do.
Right.
And
Yep.
that's what makes me a good parent. That's what makes me a good
Right.
dad or mom is when you do the things that you don't really want to do all the time.
Exactly. Yeah,
And
you're right.
sure enough, you're good at it. And when people will look at you and you're like, wow, you're such a great mom. Well, it's not because you do the right things when you want to. It's because you do the things you need to do when no one is watching and when you really don't want to. And it's the same thing for our business. It's like literally the same thing, same
Mm-hmm.
principles. We just need to apply ourselves repeatedly
Yep.
over time, and
Mm-hmm.
eventually you work as long as you're focused for a
Right.
period of time.
Yes, that's another key one too. Focus. Like you do have to have focus. Like you can't. And I know in this world now that there's so much distraction because there's like Instagram and TikTok. There's like videos that are 15 seconds or like even like for example with print on demand, like Printify offers like so many products, right? And you can offer so many different products and there's so many things that you can do. Like you still have to like kind of like just stay focused.
Mhm.
Focus on one thing at a time. Focus on learning one platform at a time. Because I mean, I go in so many groups and people are like, "Oh, well, I made $5,000 though. Let me go open another Etsy shop, and let me go open another, and now let me go to Amazon, and now let me do this, and I'm just like, please, just focus. Like, it only takes like one Etsy shop, like literally. I mean, you know this. I mean, I was watching giving like brand creators. He was interviewing Caitlyn's minimalism husband,
Okay.
and he was talking about like they were on Etsy for like a couple years before they even opened a Shopify store. And these are the people that are like the number one Etsy
Well,
seller. So they, and this say I'm saying this just to teach you like the power of focus.
mm,
Like when you get really good at like one thing and you get really good at that craft, like you grow that and you focus on that one thing, then once you get to a certain period, then of course you can take it to other areas or go somewhere else. But you have to focus. And this is always the same thing that I tell people. If you really want to make money, you want to make a ton of money, focus on one thing at a time. Focus on that one
mm.
thing, and then you can go and do the other thing or the next thing or move on to what you want to move on to. But get really good at that one thing that you're doing first.
No, Bridget, that is golden, and no one talks about this enough. No one talks about this enough, and in fact, I was the opposite of this. I think everybody
Mm-hmm.
is kind of the opposite of this at first when they're
Right.
first starting in entrepreneurship because you have this shiny thing syndrome, and
Mm-hmm.
everything is like, "Oh, you should sell tumblers, you should sell shirts, you should sell hats,
Right.
boo, boo, boo," like everything,
Yes.
right? Drop shipping, then
No.
Shopify, then Etsy, then
Right.
Amazon FBA, and then all this crazy stuff, and then you should by the way, you should, like, definitely be investing in real estate, by the way.
Right.
It's like it and if you don't, like, you're a fool, and it's, like, pretty
Right.
so there's a lot, and, the
Yes.
truth is any of them can work.
Mhm.
Any of them work,
Right.
but if you
Yes.
focus on all of them, or even 3 at a time, none of them will
Mhm.
work, and
You're right.
you need to pick one. This is what you going back to what you said, discipline.
Mhm.
Fully
Mhm.
disciplined to say, "I'm going to pick 1 for this year,
Mhm.
this entire year, not for this month, but
Mhm.
this entire year, and I'm gonna get so good at this. I'm gonna take whatever
Mhm.
courses I need to take, I'm gonna join the groups,
Right.
I'm going to watch all the YouTube videos, and I'm gonna
Right.
practice on this one thing, and after I
Mhm.
master this one thing,
Mhm.
then I'm allowed and I'll make this deal with myself, then I'm allowed to pick one other thing after I master
Right.
this one thing, And
Mhm.
I think it is completely underrated, this
Mhm.
skill.
Yeah,
It is a skill. It's
it
a
is.
muscle you need to build.
Mhm. Oh, yeah, and it's not an easy one. I mean, I think I was kinda maybe given to it because my mom has always been like that, and she kinda engraved that in me. But I know it's not an easy one because my husband is like a full-blown entrepreneur, and his brain kinda goes, and I'm just like, "No, one thing." So I'm kinda like the person that kinda reels him. That's why when he was trying to get me to become an entrepreneur, and I was like, "No, I'm gonna die being a nurse," he was all like, "You will be a really good one because you have this power to just go like this." And that's kinda how what it's been like for us, like, even, like, I was just like, "I'm just gonna do this one Etsy shop," and even now, like, even, like, we open oh, that's what we talked about the last time, we opened a Shopify store,
Mhm.
and we kinda even had to put that on pause because I feel like my Etsy shop still has so much more potential that I was just like, "Yes, that could be successful, but I kinda let me just keep going with this, and then let's go over there." And then that's kinda and even, like, now that Printify offers, like, Amazon, of course, that's great, and maybe eventually do it, but, like, for right now, especially because Q4 is coming, I need to focus on this. And for some people, they might feel like, oh, well, I need to have multiple streams of income, but like, you know, Etsy is like you can't control Etsy. But this is the thing. Like, even if you were to decide, well, you can't control Etsy and you want to go do Amazon and Shopify and do this, you're thinking that having all these things is going to give you more money. It's just not because you're haven't mastered one thing. And I would much rather be like really good at focusing right now on Etsy. And it's like, if something, Etsy ever goes away or whatever happens, like I still have this skill that I can go take somewhere else. And trust me, I will be successful doing the other thing
Mm.
because I know what to do, because I learned how to focus with one and I make sure that I did what I could with that one platform. So that's what I always want to tell people, especially when there's so many distractions going on. Focus. If it's Etsy, if it's whichever platform it is, focus on that one platform. Really get really good at it. Really learn it. I mean, know everything about it, even like your customers, your niches, everything. Get really good. I mean, become like the master, like the go-to person. And then, like you're saying, like give it yourself like a year, whatever time. And then once you get to like a point, then you can say, and like it's not like there's a certain number, like because for me, people might look like, but you made enough. You can just go somewhere else. And I'm like, yeah, but I feel like I'm still like a, you know what I mean? Like I'm like my
Mhm.
baby steps. Like there's so much more that I can still do with my Etsy shop. That's why I still pour into it.
I
Yeah.
completely agree. I was just talking to a friend of mine
Uh-huh.
just yesterday, and we were talking about, basically this shiny thing syndrome, and he was like,
Mm-hmm.
"Yeah, I'm building this business here, but I really have this
Mm-hmm.
itch I need to scratch to, like, do something
Mm.
else in the meantime," because, like, he didn't know what to do in that time of building,
Right.
and
Right.
I'm like, "Ah, that's something that people don't talk about." I completely agree
Mm-hmm.
and relate to this. Like, you get
Mm-hmm.
almost bored a little bit.
Yeah.
You're building
Mm-hmm.
this thing, you're like, "Oh, I only
Mhm.
how many listings should I do for God's sakes? I already put up 100,"
Right,
you know?
right,
And
right.
then so what he wanted to do was basically like,
Mhm.
"I wanna go start something new because"
Mm.
and I'm like, "Listen, I don't know if this is good advice or bad advice. This is my advice that I've
Right,
taken for myself, and it works.
right.
First of all, recognize where you're at. You're having the shiny thing syndrome, and that's okay. You're an entrepreneur, you're a builder, you're a creator. This is what you do, you create. Now, if you're optimizing for creativity and just for as a creative outlet, do it. Do whatever you wanna do, who cares? But if you're optimizing for money, then this is not going to work well for you.
Mhm,
And so
mhm,
if you need to scratch this itch, like by starting a new thing, then here you need to you need to be hyper disciplined and create a criteria list. And
mhm,
this is what I do. You need to say you need to make a deal with yourself, like a contract. Say like, I will allow myself to do this, a new thing,
mhm,
if it meets the following criteria. One, it needs to be able to make an income in a fairly short period of time. Could be 6 months, could be 3 months, whatever it is. 2, it needs to take less than, like, $100 a month from me. You basically filtered out all the big investments. I'm gonna go buy a laundromat, go buy this, thing, this car to rent out. Next, it needs to align with my main business. So that means it needs to amplify somehow my main business. For example, if I sell to bridesmaids on Etsy, then I'll allow myself to start a YouTube channel about weddings or something like this. And third or the fourth is I just need to be able to see myself doing this for the next 5 years.
Mm,
It's not a get
mm,
rich quick scheme. This is something that will
mhm.
continually compound for the next 5 years, and it's going to be like no effort to me. Those are the only things that I would allow
Wow.
myself to do. And if it doesn't meet the criteria, then
Mhm,
it will
mhm,
not work long term for me.
mm,
That's my thoughts.
mm.
What are your thoughts?
No, that's a good one because it really makes you think, you know what I mean? And then if you can't go through that, then it's like you gotta scratch it. I think for me, I don't know, it's a skill. Like you have to work at this. I mean, you have to, especially for people that are like work already and they have limited time, you have to really think about and like do you have the time to sit here and do all these different things? Like I would say like go and do your research. If you already have an item, like if you sell t-shirts and those already work for you, like keep seeing what else you can do, like what niches are still working for you, like maybe you can expand, like if you have a design that's doing really well and if it makes sense, maybe adding it to like a other product. But I would just go more into like going deeper with that customer because at the end of the day,
Mhm.
it's like you have to learn your customers. You have to figure out like what they like, what they don't like. There's so much that you can do with one item because you can offer in different colors. You can change like design variations. Like there's so many things that you can do, and you do this by doing research. So I would say like use that time that you're feeling icky, especially with Etsy, to do research. That's literally what I do. Because when you do research, you learn so many more things. You can not only learn like with EverBee, like learn what your competitors are doing, like what's crutching for them, but you can also see like, see new trends, like new things that are coming up. And if Etsy is not enough for you, you can go outside of Etsy. But I would say use that time to just pour instead of like feeling like you have to list or you have to do like your designs, you have to do your SEO because I know that can get repetitive. Use that extra time to go and research because if you want to make a ton of money on Etsy, you have to give people what they're looking for. And the way that you get better at doing that is by researching what those people are looking for.
You know what I love, Bridget, about this is it's interesting
Yeah.
because I know your shop and I see how successful you're doing. And
Yeah.
if I were to listen to this podcast, I would assume that
Hmm.
Bridget said customer so many times, understand your customer so many times. And then when I look at your shop and I'm like, oh, it's not actually not really specifically one niche. That I can tell,
No.
but I'm curious,
Right.
how do you view this? View your niche? Is it a specific type of person that buys your stuff, or is it like all kinds
Um,
of different types of people?
So when I first started, I was all over the place. And then once I started seeing like what was working, I went really deep with that. So like now I do have different niches, but like they're still kind of like specific on its own. Like I mean, I kind of do have a general shop, but it's not so general that I sell to every single person.
Mhm.
And some of my niches kind of do relate, but I think it's just like you still have to like go deep with that niche. Like for example, like if you're in a niche, like you can't just offer like one design. Like you have to like really go and like figure out what those people like. Because for example, if I'm a nurse, right? And I might like something that's like really simple, but maybe another nurse might like something that's really bold or in your face. So like just because you're in the same niche doesn't mean you're gonna like the same type of things. So
Mm,
you do have to spend a ton of time in a niche, especially also because Etsy, when people um, find something, Etsy will also show them like other related items. So you want to have more things that they could possibly like. Or somebody clicks on an ad that you have and they might not like that item, but you offer other items, you know, they might consider the other item. Or they'll come and buy multiples. Like so you're able to increase your order value because they'll come and buy 2, 3 plus items at a time. So, and then that's how you really get to learn those customers because then they'll also send you messages and then they'll ask you more questions like, oh, do you offer this or you offer that? And then you get to like expand on that. So that's why I was like, you can have like different niches, but I do tell people to kind of focus, like maybe start with like 1, 2, 3 like umbrella niches at a time. Don't go and target all of them because you're gonna get overwhelmed.
mm.
Start kind of like small, create from there, see what works from there, and whatever is working, I would definitely add more to those niches because they're working for a reason.
If you were to like, let's say you said umbrella niches. So, for example, nurse, would you say nursing is an
Yeah,
umbrella
I would
niche?
say nurse.
Okay.
And then, like, as a new seller, so this is the thing, as a new seller, everybody wants to sell in the nurse, right? Or like mama, and you can.
Mm,
So don't feel like, a lot of people were like, well, I just want, especially like with the mom niche, I just want to design mama things. And I'm just like, yeah, that's great. But in the beginning, your designs are not that great. And you have to be real with yourself. Like, they're just not. You're going to get better. But like your mama design is just going to get buried in the last page of Etsy because you don't have enough social proof or sales to compete with like the shops that have been doing it. Go more specific and you'll find your people because they are looking for those specific items.
Mm. If someone were to go into the nurse niche and then it's a labor and
Yeah.
delivery nurse niche,
Yeah.
using EverBee,
Mhm.
I mean, I know what I would do personally, but I'm curious what you would do
Mhm.
because I know that you use EverBee a lot. How would you
Mhm.
recommend somebody does that? Let's say they're like nurse umbrella, labor and delivery.
Mhm.
This is their
Mhm.
first shop. What are they
Mhm.
doing with EverBee?
So I like to start broad every time I research. So I would just put on the Etsy, I'll put like maybe nurse shirt. And then I will see what shows up on the first page. I would use Everbee to kind of show me like which products are like doing the like which items are doing the best.
Mhm.
And then I will go into that shop and see if they sell any more nursing stuff. So then because now you're trying to see if there's any more like
Mm.
specific types of nurses or if they're just like nurse or this is also something you can do. You can just stay in that nurse umbrella, use Everbee, then go into that shop, use Everbee again to see what are their best products. Let's say their best product is like this nurse shirt. You can still use that like design, all that aesthetic for inspiration. And then what you can do is then you can go more specific and then go onto Etsy to type in like labor nurse shirt and see what comes up. Because when you went broad, sometimes when you go broad, some of the designs might not be the same as specific. So you can use some of those inspiration that you saw in the broad things to bring into the more specific niches to help you stand out. So that's why I always like to do my, search like super like broad. Even like sometimes I don't even research the niche that I'm in. I'll go like woman's gifts or
Mm.
woman's shirts because sometimes you can get inspiration by looking at even items outside of where you sell.
So you
Like, for
type in like
example, I
women's
love,
shirt, for example, and you type in click product analytics, and then you sort by monthly sales or
yep,
total sales or
yep.
total revenue or something like that.
I like to look at, so I like sometimes look at the listing age, monthly sales, because sometimes if it's like a newer shop and they're doing really well, when you're new, that can help you because of course sometimes it gets overwhelming when you're seeing like, oh, this listing has been there for like 2 years. But when you can see newer ones, it shows you for the people that still believe that you can't make the money with t-shirts, which
Mm.
you can, but it will kind of give you the whole boost of like, wow, like it is possible.
Mm.
So I like to do it like that too. And then of course go into that shop and then go deeper and see what actually items are doing really well for them. But I always start broad. Even like I even do gifts. Sometimes I like to look at stickers, templates. I'm telling you, I look at everything because there's things sometimes that those products have that you can bring into whatever you're selling.
Mm. I love that. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, we're already at 33 minutes, and I want to get to the rapid fire questions. Are you ready to kind of wrap
Yeah.
it up a little bit? All right. So let me get it for you. Are you ready? By the
Yes.
way, Bridget has not been prepared for these questions at all yet. So, what is your favorite business book?
I don't have. I like the Atomic Habits. I don't know if that's
Yeah, that counts. I'd say it for sure counts.
yeah.
James Clear, by the way, if anybody wants to pick that up. Bridget,
Yeah.
you do seem like a person that would read that book because you mentioned like discipline and like all this other stuff, like doing the right things when no one's looking. Atomic Habits is a great read.
Hmm.
Sub question on this: how many books do you think you've read on business
Ooh,
or like mindset development, self development
a
books?
ton. I mean, I would say more than 10. So this is the thing. I read books. I listen to podcasts, even like, especially when I'm in the car by myself without the kids. I listen to a lot of podcasts, a lot of the videos that I watch on YouTube, not only about printing them in, but I follow a lot of business people on YouTube, Instagram. Like I'm mostly, yeah. So I'm constantly consuming, whether I'm reading, I'm also watching or listening too.
Cool.
Yeah.
So 10 self-development books minimum,
Mm-hmm.
plus constant
Mm-hmm.
consumption of growth-minded stuff, business-minded
Yeah.
stuff. Cool. That's a tip, by the way, takeaway for anybody listening to this that's trying to break in. Second question, what's the one thing that you wish that you knew before starting your business?
Mm, let's see. Well, this is a good one. I guess that you're just not gonna be, especially with print on demand, like it's heavy on designing, that your beginning designs are just not going to be as great as you think that they are. Because you spend a lot of time pouring into it and you look at them and you're like, to you, they just look beautiful and you're gonna put them on Etsy and they're going to sell. But it's, coming in a little bit more realistic, not like being so harsh on yourself and seeing like, oh my God, this is horrible and I'm never going to, make it. But being realistic and being open minded that you are a beginner, like this is a new skill that you're having to learn and develop and it takes time, and that your beginning designs are just not going to be great, and be honest with yourself, because sometimes the reason why we can't move forward in this business is because we're not willing to be honest with the fact that our designs still need work, and we just say, oh well, I've done everything is great and I'm still not making any sales. Well, if everything was great, then you would have already been making sales. So
Mm.
yeah.
What did somebody? How did they get that honest feedback? Is there like groups that they could post it to? Is there like friends, but they have to be designer friendly friends or business friends? So it's like people lack friends. So what would you suggest somebody does? Could they join
um
a group or something like this?
Right, like either join a group, like some type of membership, pay for a course, like audits, like spend money. Like when I do like audits, sometimes like I'll show people like side by side, like I'll show them their design and like whatever niche that they're in. I'll go and search that niche and I'll show them. I'm like, this is your design, this is what's selling. Because sometimes you need that visual to kind of help you be like, okay, like this is mine, this is what's selling. Okay, I know what I kind of need to work on. So
Yeah, that's
I
great
would
advice.
say more, yeah.
That's such great advice. Yeah, it's that right there. I've done it myself. I'm a terrible
Hmm.
designer, and especially when I was first starting out, like I was
Right.
so terrible. And putting my design next to a
Hmm.
product, let's say it's a nurse sweatshirt,
Right.
right?
Right.
If I were to design this nurse sweatshirt, I'm like, "Oh, this is
Hmm.
awesome," but it's not selling. Why?
Hmm.
And then I would type in, let's say, nurse sweatshirt on Etsy,
Hmm.
and I find a top seller with EverBee. Like, let's say this
Right.
is doing like $10,000 a month.
Hmm.
Compare the two designs. I'm like, look at the images.
Right.
Look at this. Look at this
Hmm.
white space around it. There's too much white
Hmm.
space. Like
Hmm.
the lighting is off, and you're gonna
Right.
find.
Right.
Hopefully, you'll find lots of things. And if you don't, then I highly do suggest this. The other thing you mentioned, which is like join a group. It's a membership group. Do it for a while. Figure out if it's helpful, and completely agree. All right, third question. What's the
Hmm.
worst business advice that you've ever received?
Worst business advice. Ooh. Um, that you need to have like multiple, like, I don't know, that you have to have like multiple things in order for something to work. Like you have to like have like 50 billion streams of income, and and spread yourself everywhere. Uh, and for me, a person that's like, I'm always like this is like, and plus it's like, yes, you can have 50 billion streams of income, but how much money are you making each one of them, if you're even making any money? And then I just feel like, again, going back to the whole focus, like you gotta get really good at one thing and do that really well. And then of course, then you can add maybe other things that make sense, but you have to get a master at your craft first. Like most people that are being successful, that make a ton of money, they literally are blinders. Like they go
Mm,
with one thing, and then as they expand, and maybe they add other things, but their main thing that made them money is like one thing that they focus on.
that's such great advice. That's probably my same advice as well, because we get the advice. We've all heard this advice. Like the average
Right.
millionaire has seven streams of income,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
and I
Yep.
think bad
The,
advice.
I know. And I was watching, it's funny because you said that, because Alex Hermosi literally put a reel about that. Like you say,
Mm,
like what you just said. And he like, made an example. It's like, yeah, you think that the average millionaire has this many incomes, but it's because they kind of like, start with the one. And as
one.
they made all their money, then they kind of go and like pour into other little things,
So,
but they first started with the one.
1000% agree. I think that's terrible advice that we've gotten, and I think it's probably not any one person had bad intentions. It was just it's out of context. Like all those
Right.
successful people have one solid stream of income that they've It's very easy to create multiple streams of
Mm-hmm.
income after you have
Of
one
course.
solid stream of income.
Right.
Very
Right.
difficult to create 7 streams of income out of no income. It's almost
Mm-hmm.
impossible. So,
Mm-hmm.
all
You're
right,
right.
how many hours do you think you work in your business per week?
Ooh. Uh, I mean, I would say a day, maybe like 4 or 5. I mean, I'm crazy about it, so I work a lot. I do a lot of my free time doing it because I do like it. I don't have to work as many hours as I do, but I just love it so much that I do.
So 4 or 5 per day on average?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And then how do you define work, just to be clear?
Oh, so most of it is really doing, again, most of it is doing research because I'm at the point that I just don't list, like, I mean, like a lot of crazy stuff. Everything now has to make sense because it's all depending on what's working for me. So most of that time literally goes into like researching, just learning more about the customer, figuring out what maybe what's new or what's been trending, or like so a lot of it, chunk of it goes into more into the whole research part of you know print on demand.
Beautiful. And how about, like, thinking about business, like, when you're not in front of your computer? Do you consider that work or is not really work?
I mean, I don't consider it work, but I guess my brain is is always going. I mean, it's kind of hard to shut off, but I do think like it's always like, because I'm always like, even like if I'm in the car, like I'm saying, I'm maybe listening to a podcast or like I'm constantly, doing something to fuel me. Like, I mean, I do have some downtime where I do sit and watch Netflix, but like from where like what it used to be, like is pretty insignificant. Like now I spend more of my time doing things that are like productive, that feed my brain and my soul, that actually help me grow than just like feeling like I'm just like, oh, I'm just gonna sit here and like, watch, because I don't know, I did some work, then I'm just gonna sit here and like now watching Netflix and chill. I do that too, but I like to be, productive with my time and make sure that I'm always like learning something or like, and it doesn't have to be about print on demand, just like me as a person too, because we're always evolving and we're always growing.
1000%. I love that. Last question. If your family and
Mhm.
your friends and your customers all had to get together and write an honest article or a book or something about you
Mm.
without you knowing, you're not involved at all, and they had to characterize, like, your traits and who you are as a person and all this stuff, what do you think some of the things are that they would say?
I would say focus, um, she was determined, disciplined, um, that I care, that I actually care about people, and was also like honest because I also like to live my life with truth and just kind of sometimes rip the band-aid and just say it like it needs to be said. I mean, not in a mean way, but yeah. So I would say those would be like the main ones.
I love that. I love that. Where can people find you? Where can people learn more about you? Do you have
Yeah.
I know you mentioned audit earlier,
Hmm.
you mentioned a group, like some
Yeah,
certification you started, like, you have
I
a
have
YouTube
a
channel.
membership. Yeah, it's called the Stupid Easy POD membership, and that membership was just started again to help people because I get a lot of comments on like YouTube and Facebook groups that I've seen, and even emails about people struggling with again research, design, mindset. So the membership has a ton of videos about that to kind of help you, kind of get out of that and kind of get that started. And then there's different levels of it where you can just get the information or you can just get access to me in like a group setting or like even like one to one. But that's mainly my focus. And then also I'm mostly on YouTube, like Stupid Easy POD. That's mostly where I am. I try to post like one video a week and it's about different things like designs, research, so many different tutorials. But that's mostly where I am.
I love that. By the way, for anybody listening to this, we will drop Bridget's links for both of those things in the
Mhm.
show notes or the YouTube description, depending on where you're getting this. But Bridget, thank you so much for coming on again. I really, really appreciate it. It's always fun.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. So happy to be back and hopefully we can help some people like get their minds right.
1000%. I guarantee this is helping at least one person, but probably a lot more
Yes.
than that. That's for sure. But even if it just serves one person,
Right.
it's well worth it.
Yes. Right.
Cool. Well, Bridget, thank you so much. I'll see you next time.
Sounds good. Bye.
See ya.